So in this video, we are going to learn how to add new appointment details from Cliniko to Google Sheets. Let's say you're using Cliniko to match all the appointments for your patient and you want to create a record of all the appointments which are booked by your patient in a Google Sheet. So let me tell you how you can automate this process. So in this automation, whenever a new appointment will be booked by our patient or by our team members in Cliniko, automatically with all the details of that appointment, we are going to add those details in our Google Sheets. Now, if you want to know how you can set up this kind of automation, for that you just have to come with me to my screen.
So as you can see, this is my Cliniko account. Now here I want that whenever a new appointment is booked by a patient or by my team members in Cliniko, I want to add the details of that same appointment in my Google spreadsheet. Now to do this, we have to connect our Cliniko account with Google Sheets, and to make this happen, we are going to use an automation and integration platform called Pabbly Connect to do so. So here you can see we are on Pabbly Connect's dashboard. And to reach this dashboard, you will get a free sign-up link of Pabbly Connect in the description box below. After reaching to this dashboard, we have to create an automation workflow between Cliniko and Google Sheets inside Pabbly Connect. And it is very simple to create one. Just click on Create Workflow and give this workflow a name. Let's say I want to name my workflow as Cliniko to Google Sheets. You can basically give any other name of your choice. Then after that, just select the folder of your Pabbly Connect account in which you want to create the workflow and click on Create. And as you click on Create here, you can see the workflow is open over here. In this workflow, you can see two different windows. First one is the trigger window and second one is the action window. So triggers and actions are basically those two concepts, those two principles on which this whole automation works on, where the trigger says when this happens and the action says do this. So let's start with our trigger window. Now the idea here is, first we are going to connect our Cliniko account with Pabbly Connect in the trigger step, so that whenever a new appointment is booked on our Cliniko account, automatically the details of that newly created appointment will be received inside Pabbly Connect, and this automation workflow will trigger. Then after that, using this Pabbly Connect automation, we are going to send the details of that new appointment and add those details in our Google spreadsheet. So let's see how it is done. Starting from a trigger window, in Choose App, search for Cliniko. Just select it. After selecting Cliniko, in Trigger Event from this drop-down, select the trigger event as New Individual Appointment Created. After selecting the trigger event, just click on Connect and select Add New Connection. Now here, we have to connect our Cliniko account with Pabbly Connect. And to make this connection, it is asking us to enter the API key, password, and shard of our Cliniko account. Now you must be thinking how you can get this API key and password. So to get it, let's read the help text given below over here. Enter your Cliniko API key and password here. You can leave the password field blank. To get the unique API key, visit My Info, Manage API Key section in Cliniko app. So it is telling us that we can keep the field of password as blank, but we have to enter the API key. And we have the steps to get the API key of our Cliniko account. So to get it, just go to your Cliniko account dashboard and from the left sidebar, click on My Info. After coming to My Info section, just scroll down, and after scrolling down here, you can see this section of Manage API Keys. Just click on Manage API Key and click on this Add an API Key button. Give this API key a name. Let's say I'll name it as Pabbly Connect and click on Create API Key. Now as you click on Create here, you can see an API key is generated in our Cliniko account. Copy the API key from here, go to Pabbly Connect and paste it over here. Then after entering the API key, we are going to keep the field of password as blank as written over here, and it is asking us for the shard of our Cliniko account. Now here in this dropdown, you can see a list of different domains, different options over here. Out of all of this, to select which particular shard you have to select, it is telling us that it is mentioned in the URL, in the link of our Cliniko account. So we will go to a Cliniko account, and here in the link itself, you can see after my company name .au2. This is the shard of my Cliniko account. So here from this dropdown, we are going to select this option of AU2. You can select any other option as per your Cliniko account. Whatever option, whatever AU or whatever shard is mentioned in the link of your Cliniko account, you have to select that same shard from this dropdown. So I've selected AU2 over here and then just click on Save. And as we click on Save, we will see our Cliniko account will get connected with Pabbly Connect. After making this connection, we have to just click on this Save and Send Test Request button. And when we click on Save and Send Test Request, the details of the last appointment, the most recent appointment which was created in our Cliniko account, will be received inside Pabbly Connect. So in my Cliniko account, I will go to the appointment section, and here under appointment section, you can see the most recent appointment which I have created was for 20th of February. So I have created this appointment over here where the appointment start date is 20th of February and it is starting at 1 p.m. It is a 45 minutes of appointment and the patient name is demo user. This is the email, mobile number and the other details. So this was the most recent appointment which I have created in my Cliniko account. Now we will get back to Pabbly Connect and click on this Save and Send Test Request button. And as we click on Save and Send Test Request, here you can see we have received the response. And in this response, you will see the details of the exact same appointment which we have created, the most recent appointment which we have created in Cliniko. So here you can see the date and time, that at what date and time this appointment was created. We'll scroll down and we have the start that at what date and time this appointment is going to get started. So we have the date as 20th of February 2024, which is mentioned over here. As you can see, the appointment is for 20th of Feb, but the time over here is 7:30 a.m. Now, because we have created the appointment for 1 p.m., but the time which it is showing us in our Pabbly Connect response is 7:30 a.m. This is because we are getting this date and time into UTC time zone. So I have created the appointment according to my own time zone, which is India. I'm in India. And in India, we follow Asia Kolkata time zone. So I have created the appointment according to that. But inside Pabbly Connect, we have received the appointment according to UTC time zone. So what you can do, using a simple feature of Pabbly Connect called Date Time Formatter, you can change the format and the time zone of this date. So we will get the correct date and time of the appointment as per our time zone. Now after that, we'll scroll down and here you can see the patient name. We have the name of the patient who booked the appointment with us. We'll scroll down further. Then here you can see the response of ID. This is the unique ID of the appointment. We'll scroll down and here you can see end at. So at what date and time the appointment is going to get ended. We have the same date and time. And we have this date and time according to UTC time zone as well. So we are going to change the format and the time zone of this end date and time too. We will scroll down further and here you can see some other links related to the same appointment over here. Also in the beginning of the response, you can see this telehealth URL. So this is the URL using which the patient and the doctor on Cliniko can get connected. So here we can see the details of the appointment are received inside Pabbly Connect. But here in these details, the details of the patient are missing. Like we only have the name of the patient, but what is the email address, contact number, date of birth, and other details of the patient which we want to add in our Google spreadsheet, these details are missing. So what you can do, here in the important note, it is clearly mentioned that to get the details of a patient, use the action event get a patient details as the next action step. So we have to set up an action step of Cliniko and we have to select the action event as get a patient details. And using this action event, we can get all the details of the patient who booked an appointment with us. So let's do it. We will scroll down and come to this action step. And here in Choose App, once again, we are going to search for Cliniko. Just select it. After selecting Cliniko, in action event from this drop down, as written in important note, we are going to select the action event as get a patient details. Then just click on connect. And here we have to connect our Cliniko account with Pabbly Connect once again. But because we have connected it in the trigger step, we don't have to make a new connection over here. You can select the existing connection and click on save. And as we click on save, we will see our Cliniko account will get connected with Pabbly Connect. After making this connection, the next thing it asks us is the patient ID. So in this dropdown, you can see a list of all the patients I have in my Cliniko account. But every time an appointment is booked, we will get the appointment from a new patient. So in this dropdown, from this dropdown, we cannot select the patient over here. So what we are going to do, we will turn the mapping button on in front of it and clear the default response. And after clearing the default response, we have to enter the patient ID who has booked the appointment on Cliniko, whose appointment details we have received in the trigger step. We have to enter the patient ID of that patient who booked the appointment. Now you must be thinking how you are going to get the patient ID. So in the trigger responses of new appointment, we have received a response named as patient link self. And in this response, in this URL, you can see at last we have a unique ID. This is the unique patient ID. This is the ID of the patient who booked this appointment with us. So what we are going to do, from this response of patient link self, we are going to extract the response of patient ID. We are going to extract the details of this patient ID. And to extract the patient ID from this complete link, we are going to use a feature, a module of Pabbly Connect called text formatter. So we will just scroll down, and before this Cliniko get a patient detail action step, before that, just click on this add action step button over here. And here in choose app, search for text formatter. Just select it. After selecting text formatter by Pabbly, in action event from this drop down, select the action event as split text. And then just click on connect. After clicking on connect, the first thing it asks us is text to split. That what is the text? What is the response you want to split into two parts? So we want to split the response of this patient link cell. So what we are going to do, we are going to map this URL. We are going to map this response of link. And after mapping it using text formatter, we are going to extract the patient ID from it. And the process of mapping is very simple. Simply come to this text formatter step and click on this field of text to split. Just click here. Then after that, here in this dropdown, you can see a list of all the responses which we have received from Cliniko of a new individual appointment created. From the trigger step, you can see all the details, all the responses. Out of all of these responses, select the response of patient link self and it will be mapped. After mapping this URL, it is asking us for the separator. So because we want the text, we want the ID after this slash, so we are going to use this slash as the separator. But here in this URL, you can see slash is used multiple times. And after slash, we want the last value. The ID which we want is at the last. So here in the segment indexed, we are going to select last over here. And then just click on save and send test request. And as we click on save and send test request, here you can see using a feature of Pabbly Connect text formatter, from this complete link, from this complete URL, we have extracted the response of patient ID over here. Now, after getting this patient ID using text formatter, we are going to map the response of patient ID in this Cliniko get a patient detail action. So to get the details of the patient, we needed the patient ID, and using text formatter, we have extracted that. Now just click on this patient ID, and here in this dropdown, you can see a list of all the responses from previous two steps, from the Cliniko trigger and also from the text formatter step. And from this text formatter split text action, just select the response of result and map it. We have selected and mapped the patient ID over here. After mapping the patient ID, just click on save and send test request. And as you click on save and send test request, here you can see we have received the response. And in this response, you can see all the details of the patient who booked an appointment with us. So we can see the created date and time, that at what date and time this patient was created in our Cliniko account. We have the ID, the unique ID of the patient. We will scroll down and you can see the appointment note. The note which the patient is added for the appointment, you can see that appointment note as well. We'll scroll down further. Here you can see the date of birth of the patient. Then after that, you can see the email address of the patient. You can see the first name, last name, and all the other details of this patient. Like we have the mobile number. We'll scroll down further. We have the salutation, the title, and all of that. So in this way, all the details of a patient who booked the appointment with us on Cliniko can be extracted using this get a patient detail action step. Now, after extracting all of these details, we want to add these details in our Google spreadsheet. But before doing that, we had the start date and time and end date and time of the appointment from Cliniko. And we wanted to change the format and the time zone of this start at and also of this end at date and time of the appointment. Now, using Pabbly Connect itself, you can change the format and the time zone of these date and time too. So we will be using a feature of Pabbly Connect called date time formatter to do so. So we will scroll down and we will just click on this add action step button over here. And after that, here in choose app, search for date time formatter. Just select it. After selecting date time formatter, in action event from the drop down, select the action event as format date with time zone. Then just click on connect. After clicking on connect, it is asking us for the date. That what is the date and time whose format and time zone we want to change. So we want to change the format and the time zone of this start at date from the trigger step. So as you can guess, we are going to map this response of start at date and time in this date time formatter action step. And the process of mapping stays the same. Just click on this field of date and from the drop down from Cliniko responses, select the response of start at and it will be mapped. Then after that, it is asking us from format that in which particular format of date and time this date is present right now. So in this drop down, you can see a list of different formats, out of all of which the first format which we have, the date and time is present in this particular format right now, as you can guess. So we have selected the from format. Then it is asking us to format, that into which format we want to change the date and time. So from this drop down, we are going to select the to format as this. Like for example, I want to change the date and time in this particular format of day, month, year, hours, minutes, seconds, and then we have AM and PM. This is a pretty easy format to read. But if you want, you can select any other format of date and time from this drop down. I'm selecting this particular format. Then it is asking us for from time zone, that according to which time zone we have received this date and time. So as I told you, we have received the response of date and time from Cliniko inside Pabbly Connect according to UTC time zone. So from this drop down, we are going to search for UTC and select it. And in to time zone, you have to select your time zone, that in which time zone you want to change the date and time into. Like I'm in India, and in India we follow Asia Kolkata time zone. I'm selecting that. You can select your time zone, that what is the time zone you follow in your country at your place. You can select that time zone over here. And then just click on save and send test request. Now when we click on save and send test request, here you can see we have received a response. And this response seems to be a positive response. In this response, you can see the exact same date and time, that for what date and time the patient has booked an appointment with us in Cliniko. So the date was 20th of Feb. As you can see over here, for 20th of Feb, we have this appointment and time was 1 p.m. over here. So you can see the same date and time. Now, similarly, how we have converted or changed the format and time zone of start date and time, we are going to change the format and time zone of end date and time as well. Because in Google Sheet, we want to add that particular detail too. So what we are going to do, we will be using the clone step feature. So we have created this date time formatter step. Now just click on these three dots in front of it and click on this clone step button. And this exact same step will be cloned in our automation workflow. We don't have to set up the complete step. We have cloned the exact same step. Then after that, in the field of date, in this first field, we are going to remove this map date of start at, and from the drop down from Cliniko responses, the trigger responses, map the response of end at. So we have mapped the end date and time of the appointment. Rest of the things will stay the same. Just click on save and send test request. And as we click on save and send test request, here you can see we have the date and time, that at what date and time the appointment is going to end. So according to Cliniko, at 1:45 p.m. on 20th of Feb, the appointment is supposed to end, and here you can see the same date and time. In this way, we have received all the details and changed the format and time zone of the appointment start date and end date as well. Now after this, let's add all of these details in Google Sheets. Just click on this add action step button for one last time, and here in choose app, search for Google Sheets. Just select it. After selecting Google Sheets, an action event from the drop down, select add new row as the action event. Then just click on connect and select add new connection. Now here we have to connect our Google Sheets account with Pabbly Connect. And to make this connection, click on this sign in with Google button. Now as you click on it, just select your Google Sheets account. Then after selecting your account, just scroll down and click on continue. And as we click on continue, we will see our Google Sheets account will get connected with Pabbly Connect. After making this connection, the first thing it asks us is to select the spreadsheet. Now here in this drop down, you can see a list of all the spreadsheets which I have created in my Google Sheets account can be seen over here. Out of all of this, the spreadsheet in which I want to add the Cliniko appointment details is named as Cliniko Appointments. So from this drop down, I'm going to select that particular sheet in which I want to add the details. After selecting the spreadsheet, it is asking us to select the sheet. Now here in this Google spreadsheet, I have only one sheet named as sheet 1. And here in the drop down, you can see only one option as sheet 1. So I'm selecting that. If in case, if you have created multiple sheets in your Google Sheet, In that case, you will get a list of all the sheets inside this dropdown and you can select the sheet in which you want to add the details. After selecting the sheet, here you can see all the column of data which we have created in this Google Sheet. You can see all of these columns as fields inside Pabbly Connect. And one by one, we have to map the respective data in these fields. Like the first field is of appointment ID. So we have received the appointment ID in the trigger step from Cliniko. So what you are going to do? We will be using the same process of mapping. Just click on this field of appointment ID and from the drop down from trigger step responses, select this response of ID and it will be mapped. Then after that, it is asking us for the patient name. So from Cliniko trigger responses, we have received the response of the patient name. So we are going to select it and map it too. Then it is asking us for the email. So just click here and using Cliniko's get a patient detail action step, we have received the email address of the patient. So we are going to select the response of email and map it. Then after that, we have the field of mobile number. So from get patient detail responses, we are going to select of mobile number from this drop down. So we'll just scroll and select the response of mobile number and map it too. Then once again, we will use the same process of mapping and map the date of birth because we have received the date of birth of the patient. And here in start date and time, using date time formatter for the first time, we have changed the format and the time zone of the start date and time of the appointment. So from the drop down, select and map that responses. And after using date time formatter for the second time, we have the formatted date and time for the end date and time of the appointment. So we have mapped it over here. At last, we have telehealth URL. So from this drop down from Cliniko responses, we are going to select the response of telehealth URL and map it too. In this way, all the details of the appointment which we are receiving from Cliniko and the details of the patient we have received, you can map all of these details into the respective fields. After mapping all the details, just click on Save and Send Test Request. And when we click on Save and Send Test Request, here you can see we have received some response. And this response seems to be a positive response to us. This response shows that all the details which we have mapped over here, basically all the details of a new appointment which we have received from Cliniko, all of these details are now added in our Google spreadsheet. So let's check it. We will go to our Google Sheet and yes, here you can see a new row of data is added in our Google spreadsheet. And here you can see all the details of the appointment. We have the appointment ID, we have the name of the patient who booked the appointment, we have the patient email address, mobile number, we have the date of birth as well. The format of date of birth is not correct, so using the Google Sheet format data section, you can basically change the format of the data too. So let's go to format, number, and we are going to select date over here. So here you can see the date of birth format is also corrected. Then we have the start date and time of the appointment, end date and time, and also we have the telehealth URL. Using this link, using this particular URL, the customer, the patient, and the doctor can join the appointment. So in this way, we have successfully created an automation between Cliniko and Google Sheet, and using this automation, whenever a new appointment will be created in Cliniko, automatically the details of that appointment and the patient will be added in Google spreadsheet. Now here, after creating the appointment, to add the details in Google Sheet, it may take up to 8 hours for this automation because the connection between Cliniko and Pabbly Connect is a polling based connection. And in this type of connection, Pabbly Connect will check for the details of the new appointment every 8 hours. So every 8 hours, Pabbly Connect will check whether the new appointments are created or added, and all the appointments which are added in last 8 hours will be received inside Pabbly Connect. And using this automation, we are going to add the details of all of those appointments in our Google spreadsheet. So not just these applications, you can connect plenty of other applications with Pabbly Connect. And one more important thing, you will find the clone link of this exact same workflow in the description box below. By clicking on that link, you can clone the same workflow into your own Pabbly Connect account and use this automation workflow for free. Also, let me tell you, Pabbly Connect offers you a free plan. And in this plan, you will get some free tasks every month into your own Pabbly Connect account. So if you want to try and test this automation, you can do it for absolutely free.
If you have any kind of doubts or queries, you can email us at support@pabbly.com or post it on our forum over here. Or you can write us in the comment box below too. If you want to check out the pricing of Pabbly Connect, you can visit this link. And if this video was helpful to you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Pabbly. So this is it for today's video. Thank you. Have a great day.